Welcome to your Auburn edition of Head to Head. This is the bye week edition, and it's not often that Alabama and Auburn get the same week off, so it's kind of cool. We get to sit back, relax, watch a little football. I'm Lauren Sisler. This is Kevin Scarbinsky. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, some things that need work in the schedule, and we'll start with the offense. Who is your offensive MVP now 8 weeks through the season for the Auburn Tigers?
Well, there's an obvious choice, but I'm going to go off the board, as I often do, and I'm going to mention Casey Dunn, the transfer center, the graduate transfer center. When he was healthy, and he's been banged up, and we're going to get into more discussion of injuries in a minute, but when he was healthy and they were able to move Austin Golson, that was their best offensive line. Casey Dunn at the center position. And you saw he got hurt in the LSU game. He played in the LSU game, went out, came back in, wasn't healthy, and that's when they had some issues. And so getting him healthy is paramount because that's their best five on the offensive line when he's playing center. He's been really valuable there. They've been able to run the ball. They've been able to give Jarrett Stidham time for the most part, except for obviously the Clemson game and at times against LSU. So solidifying that offensive line because they've got weapons elsewhere, but you got to have that line opening holes and protecting the quarterback, and it starts with Casey Dunn in the middle.
And those weapons, Kerryon Johnson, I'm going with him as my offensive MVP. He has had an outstanding season. Despite getting hurt early on with a hamstring injury, he has had a slew of injuries in his career. Ankle injuries, high ankle sprains, just very up and down. But to be able to see him to come back, 14 touchdowns right now, he leads the nation with that. Being able to come back with a hamstring injury, he really hasn't been 100% all season until really this last game, previous game before that. So for him to be able to have that kind of performance, I really like to see him shining through this. We get Cam Petway back, obviously, but he's been kind of missing in action these last several weeks. So mine goes to Kerryon Johnson, defensive MVP. Who you got?
Well, just overall, you got to be impressed with that defense. They did give up some big plays in recent weeks, but they've been really good from the start of the season till now. They've really been the backbone of the team, the most consistent part of the team. And to me, it starts with Trey Matthews at safety. When he was out at times against LSU, they were able to hit him for a couple of big jet sweeps, which Matt Canada loves to do. I think everything starts with him back there. The front has been so good. You could pick any number of guys on the front, but I think if there's one player that they can least afford to lose or least afford to miss going forward as the season gets more important, the games get bigger, it's Trey Matthews at safety.
I like that. He's like the CEO of the team. That's what Kevin Steele has talked about often. I'm going to go with Jeff Holland. He has really emerged as a edge rusher. He is a co-defensive player of the week, 8 sacks this season. And to mention, you know, everybody thought there was going to be this drought after Carl Lawson and Montravius Adams left. Carl Lawson led last year with 8 sacks. He's just one shy of that right now. Carl Lawson had 9 last season. He's got 8. So we still have a lot of football left to play. So it's impressive to see how he's really emerged as a leader, as an edge rusher for this team in this defense, and has really stepped up as a leader for them. Now, when we talk about what needs work for this football team, I'm going to point to the obvious here. They need to get healthy. We saw what happened to this team last year. They started to crumble midway through the season. The injuries just plaguing them left and right and left and right. And then next thing you know, their quarterback goes down, Sean White, and the rest is history. And so we don't want to see that happen. This team is obviously starting to build something, showing improvement each and every week, especially on the offense. And I think this is going to be huge. Gus Malzahn talked about really getting these guys healthy. That's going to be a big focus. And then, of course, working on the little things, the execution, and as you said, the coaching, right?
Well, that's what I'm going to say, what needs to really stand out and step up and prove itself down the stretch is the offensive coaching, the relationship between Gus Malzahn, the head coach, and Chip Lindsey, the new offensive coordinator. Yeah, they've put up stupid numbers against the likes of Arkansas and Ole Miss and Missouri. But against the two best defenses they've played, Clemson and LSU, not so much, except for that first quarter and a half against LSU. Can they get it done on the road at Texas A&M in their next game? And then you've got the two best defenses in the SEC outside of Auburn in those last 2 SEC games. And we'll get to those in a minute. So can they develop that relationship? Again, they're in their first year working as head coach and offensive coordinator. Can they dial up the right plays when they play the better teams left on the schedule? Can they handle the pressure of a second half where the game is tight? Can they get a lead and keep pouring it on as they did at Arkansas instead of taking your foot off the gas as they did at LSU, which obviously was a big mistake? So that's what I want to see from Auburn. I want to see Gus Malzahn and Chip Lindsey get it done in a game that matters against a quality opponent.
Okay, so we'll fast forward to November 4th, that Texas A&M matchup. I do like Auburn against Texas A&M. Of course, you're going in against the 12th man. Obviously, we know that's a crazy environment. It's funny, though. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff, and Auburn does not have a great record in those early kickoffs. And we saw Kerryon Johnson. He tweeted out the frowny face, multiple frowny face emojis because of that kickoff. We haven't seen that many this year. We've seen a lot of night kickoffs. Personally, I like to get up a little bit earlier and get it done, but it is what it is. So it'll be an interesting matchup, but of course, going to Texas A&M, we always know that's going to be a tough environment.
It is, and actually though, and Kerryon Johnson should have put a smiley face up, because if you're the visiting team in an 11 a.m. kickoff, you should be happy.
Yeah.
Because the home fans don't have time to get juiced up. They don't have time to put stuff in their coffee, as Ed Orgeron suggested LSU
that
fans
liquid
should
courage,
do.
right?
Exactly. So as a visitor, that's a positive, that you're not playing a night game in front of 100,000 plus fans in Kyle Field. So I like Auburn from that standpoint. I also like the defense of Auburn. The defense travels. You still have a true freshman quarterback in Kellen Mond at Texas A&M. I think Kevin Steele will dial up some things for him that might confuse him a bit. And I have no faith in John Chavis, the defensive coordinator for Texas A&M. I think he's one of the most overrated DCs in college football.
Which is crazy.
And has been for years.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you really look at what he's done in big games. Not to mention, Auburn is 2-0 at Texas A&M since they joined the SEC. Even Jeremy Johnson won a game at Texas A&M. So I like Jarrett Stidham's chances.
Yeah, Chavis obviously getting a lot of hype coming in to that program. When you look at November 11th against Georgia, I think it's a great football team, a great defense, and you're looking at basically a Nick Saban disciple in Kirby Smart. That's what they've really primed themselves on. Jake Fromm obviously has come into his own as a quarterback. The big discussion is what happens when Jacob Eason is healthy. Well, obviously, Jake Fromm is carrying the load there. So I think this is going to be an incredible matchup. I don't see it being a high-scoring affair. But again, I think a lot's going to be on the confidence of this Auburn team and the health of this Auburn team.
To me, and this could change based on what happens the previous weekend at Texas A&M, and what happens with Florida Georgia. Obviously, Georgia should win that game, but they have a history of
Which
laying,
I'll be there
laying
this weekend
eggs
for the cocktail party.
They have a history of laying eggs in Jacksonville, so we'll see if they can overcome that history. But that Georgia-Auburn game, to me, that's the game of the year for Auburn. Because that's the game where they have really been dominated by the Bulldogs, except for 2010 and 2013, and we know what it took in 2013.
The miracle in Jordan
took
Hare,
the prayer in Jordan Hare.
Prayer in Jordan Hare,
and so that's the team first. Before you start dealing with Alabama, if you're Auburn, you have got to deal with Georgia, because Kirby Smart's in his second year there. Gus Malzahn's in his fifth year. You should not be losing to Georgia 4 years in a row. They've lost the last 3. This is one they've got to get. It's in Jordan Hare Stadium. It sets up a lot of stuff maybe for the next week or the 2 weeks later in the Iron Bowl if Auburn can win that game. So that should be, and I hate to use this word because war is war and football is football, but as far as football games go, that will be a football war. It will be a defensive slugfest. Which team can eke out a couple of touchdowns will probably win the game. So that, to me, it's a toss-up right now. We'll see what develops beforehand before I make any call on who I think wins.
And as you said, that definitely plays into what might potentially happen in the Iron Bowl. Of course, Auburn gets Alabama back in the confines of Jordan Hare Stadium. So that'll be exciting. And of course, we get the weekend off. Both teams off. This hasn't happened. This doesn't happen often when we get Alabama and Auburn off in the same week. So I don't know what you're going to do with your fun weekend. I'm going to be with SEC Nation at the cocktail party. So we'll get to see if Georgia can slap one on Florida. Who knows? I don't know, but
I'm going to be planning my Halloween party.
Woo! Big Halloween party. I hear you go big.
Big.
Like
very big.
Hundreds of people big.
Big. Big. Everyone's invited, but I'm not going to tell you where I live.